As we speak, senators and a limited number of aides have a limited amount of time to look at the one copy of the finished FBI investigation. There's one printed up document in a very secure location that they can go into for a very short period of time and take a look at it. There's going to be no leaks. You and I will probably never see what is in that document, but we can sort of get an idea of what's in it from what different people are saying. So the White House initially last night said they were very pleased with what was in it and what wasn't in it. And that is based on not looking at it for even a second. Like with all of Donald Trump's book reviews that he tweets out, he didn't read it. But he also doesn't care, and he doesn't need to see it. There's also people like Lindsey Graham who said that they're not going to read the entire thing because they already know how they're going to vote, obviously. But I want to talk about the actual conduct of the FBI, what was investigated, what wasn't investigated. There were concerns along the way that the investigation was being purposefully hamstrung and its scope was limited, both in time and how many people they could talk to. That was how they announced it, remember, last weekend, was that it would be limited in scope. But they haven't liked the media attention around that. They want the aura, if not the reality, of having an actual substantive investigation designed to get to the truth. And so President Trump has insisted publicly that he was not curtailing the inquiry. But privately, the White House restricted the FBI from delving deeply into Kavanaugh's drinking in high school and college and exploring whether he lied to Congress about his alcohol use, according to officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive matter. And beyond that, there were many other limitations on the investigation. First of all, the Senate Republicans have tried to distance themselves from these concerns about too much control being put over the FBI, saying that they haven't provided any sort of limited list of who the FBI can talk to. They should have communicated that with the White House, though, because the White House came out and said that the Senate had given them a list of 4 witnesses that they wanted the FBI to talk to, and that's it. And wait until you hear who was and was not on that list of witnesses. Because here's the thing. This is about a sexual assault accusation. It's about more than one, but it's primarily about one. And there's the accuser and there's the accused. And neither of them were interviewed for this investigation.
Because apparently during the testimony that went down last Thursday, I believe it was, both got to speak. So then they said, we're just gonna submit that into the record. The FBI hasn't anything to do with it. But actually, during that entire time, that inquiry or that testimony was conducted by senators from both sides of the aisle. Of course, some that were in support of Kavanaugh, and it happens vice versa. Ones that were in support of Kavanaugh, the questions weren't really questions when they got to talking to him. And also, when Dr. Blasey Ford was there, the questions were conducted by the special investigator or the prosecutor, right?
Yeah.
So that was taken care of in that way. That's not the FBI. That's not their expertise. Many senators don't have any expertise in anything, you gotta be honest, except for being politicians, because their staff does all the work. So when you have that scenario where they're there to ask both of them questions, and that's what we're gonna submit to the FBI, what would we need the FBI for anyway? So if I see a crime happened, or I think I saw a crime happen, am I qualified to go and conduct the investigation? Or do I call the police and say, hey, you guys should conduct this investigation about how my car got stolen? Or should I go out on the streets and start trying to find someone who stole my car and conduct the investigation? No, it's not my place. That's for the authorities to handle.
Well, look, that's one angle. The other angle is if you're accused of a crime and you're worried about, perhaps cracking under the questioning that you might face, just record a selfie video of you talking about what happened, and as long as you've got that, why should any experienced interrogator actually talk to you? It's ridiculous. Of course it's ridiculous. Republican senators don't mind. They think it's perfectly fine because they don't want any additional information. Every bit of information that has come out since this FBI investigation started has hurt Kavanaugh's credibility, and so they don't want any more. Republican voters don't care at all because they've never been interested in the actual facts of whether Kavanaugh assaulted Christine Blasey Ford. And honestly, more importantly, and perhaps more scary, they don't care either way. Whether it happened or it didn't happen, they don't find that to be something that should disqualify you from being on the Supreme Court.
Because there was something else that I thought. If you do, fine, you have their submitted testimony, their sworn testimony from last week. Now, if the FBI interrogates each of them, you might have some discrepancies in their own stories. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, well, of course you interview the first 2 players in the whole scenario first. Then if there's any discrepancies in their stories, you're thinking, oh, what point were they not telling the same truth? Who knows? Again, if you're looking for the truth, maybe the accuser is the one who's not telling the truth to the FBI. Don't you want that answer? Don't you want the FBI to interrogate her and ask her the same thing that she was asked before?
Not interested. So her lawyers have put out a statement saying that it cannot be called an investigation since it didn't interview her nor the witnesses that they put forward who could corroborate her testimony. They're profoundly disappointed, and they should be, because they had between 8 and 20, depending on who you talk to, witnesses that they said could corroborate what happened 36 years ago. The FBI talked to literally none of them. They were not interested. There's a similar sort of situation with some of the other accusations. So Deborah Ramirez, they did actually interview. That was the second accuser. But all of the various people that say that they can corroborate that at the time they knew that Brett Kavanaugh had done what Deborah Ramirez alleges she did, they did an interview because they don't care. Mark Judge, they talked to Mark Judge, but did they go and talk to the supermarket that she says she saw him working at that could sort of hone in on exactly when this alleged assault happened? No, they didn't do that, and apparently were barred from doing it. So again, the Senate Republicans and the White House want to say that they're not, getting involved in this, they're not limiting it, but that is what actually happened in terms of the witnesses and in terms of what areas of investigation they could actually go into. I want to give you a little bit more information about what the FBI could have gotten from some of those witnesses that Deborah Ramirez suggested. One has gone forward and gone public, I should say, because he tried to get in touch with the FBI and the FBI would not return his calls. This is Kenneth Appold. This is one of Brett Kavanaugh's college roommates. He was alluded to in Kavanaugh's testimony. There was talk of some sort of issue with a third roommate, and that was supposed to mean that what he had said didn't matter. But he has a lot to say about what Kavanaugh said in that testimony and the actual veracity of it. Appold said that he was 100% certain that he was told that Kavanaugh was the male student who exposed himself to Deborah Ramirez. He said that he never discussed the allegation with Ramirez, whom he said he barely knew in college, but he recalled details, which he said an eyewitness described him at the time, that matched Ramirez's memory of what happened. He says specifically, I can corroborate Debbie's account. I believe her because it matches the same story I heard 35 years ago, although the two of us have never talked. So if the fallback is that this is some sort of political vendetta, something Clintons, and they're all working together, he says he didn't know her then, he doesn't know her now, but he knows what he heard at the time. So again, they will say no evidence, no corroboration. They're not interested in the evidence, they're not interested in the corroboration.
You won't get any corroborating evidence if you don't ever get the evidence or you never get the accounts. And again, yeah, sure, many people could be lying. That's why, first of all, you need more than 5 days. It wasn't even a week. First off, you need more than 5 days to collect information, then compare it to other information from other folks. Again, he said he didn't really know her that well, but he'd heard about the stories. There's multiple people who said they'd heard of the story. Again, versus what Judge Kavanaugh said in the hearings last week, saying, if something like this had happened, it'd have been the talk of campus. I'm not sure if you're going to get to this, but one of those people did say, I heard him say that. And I was like, actually, this is in the 80s, or early 90s, late 80s, where something like this happens. You don't want it to be the talk of campus. You kind of keep it on the hush. You go, man, that was kind of uncomfortable. I'm not sure if I should say anything because there's no one to say it to. Again, the Title IX things we're put in a place where you have someone to report this type of stuff. We talk about the changing of times and how things were different then. No, it wouldn't have been that way because that's the way things were.
Well, there was at least a little bit of talk. Kenneth Appold was involved in that talk.
Absolutely. It'll stay amongst like several people. And if you talk to those several people, you might get some evidence that all makes sense. Someone who never talked to one person or another, or even the potential victim herself, and say, I heard about that and I wasn't even there.
Yeah, the FBI, we cannot overlook this. They talked to 9 people total. There were 5 people at that first party. There are at least 4 accusers, plus Kavanaugh, that's 5. They only talked to 9 people. There are literally a couple of dozen people. They could do that in a couple of extra days. I know that the thing is, no, you guys just want to delay. It's like 48 extra hours. You can't do that to get to the truth. We're talking about a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. He will rule on hundreds of cases that'll have far-reaching consequences in every area of policy. And we can't afford like a 3-day weekend added to this investigation to, actually talk to the guy being accused of multiple sexual assaults. That is ridiculous.
Hey, people go to, for minor crimes, go to jail and wait if they can't make bail. We know how that system works. If they can't make bail, they sit there for an undetermined amount of time while our judicial system gets things together and puts together some way to prove or disprove, or he tries to get a chance to prove himself innocent, or he's supposed to be considered that in the first place. But that process takes some time. So again, for a lifetime appointment, you don't have the time to wait or to figure this whole thing out. to put that in place. What are you in a rush for? What's the big rush? Is the lifetime appointment is there an expiration date on this nomination process? Or are you worried about something else? Do you know that there's a potential for more and more information about this person to come out that the public will know that they really don't want to be heard?
Yeah.
Like all the evidence leads to them wanting to cover things up. If it was a transparent feel to this, tone to their approach, maybe people might believe you. When you say, I've known Judge Kavanaugh for 25 years, he'd never do this. Sure, but let's find out. I haven't known him for 25 years.
Yeah. And if you do rush, then maybe we'll get to finally find out in this country what it's like when you impeach a Supreme Court justice. That'll be an exciting time. Buckle up.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.